This time he was a thin, gay Japanese man in his 30s, living in the late 19th century. He told me he had an affair of the heart. He had fallen in love with much younger man. There was no way to get the young man's love, he felt, other than seducing him. So, that is what he set out to do. Alcohol was the means. He took his beloved to a room and plied him with liquor, half against young man's will. They became lovers that night. The young man was ashamed, embarrassed, and humiliated. Homosexuality was dishonorable, forbidden act in his culture. The young man was particularly mortified that he had allowed himself to be taken. His reaction was rage. He arrived at their next rendezvous with a knife or a sword and plugged it into the older man's chest. George was too thin and weak to resist. My patient died instantly. In his life review, the themes of hatred, anger, impulsive rage, and alcohol were all present. He should have not he should have been more patient, George realized. He did not have to seduce the younger man, but could have waited for a willing partner. He was not judging his homosexuality. His sin was interfering with someone else's free will by manipulating him. A more subtle connection centered on weight. For all his strength, George was obese, which added to his risk of heart attack. Sometimes people put on and maintain weight as a protection. This is common with a woman who had been abused or raped. Symbolically, they are trying to prevent that violence from reoccurring. And here was George, a rapist who was also a victim of violence. His obesity seemed to stem from that life and from other, not this one. Once George understood this, dieting became easier. I wrote, his past life scar may be from the wife wound, from the knife wound, cardiac susceptibility in the future. I couldn't be sure, but frequently we come back with wounds or weaknesses in the areas of the body that were the site of mortal wounds or damage in a past life. In George's case, the connection seemed likely. By this time, George was able to go very deep. He seemed to shaken by his experiences and inspired by them. In 1981, when my patient Catherine was in a deep hypnotic state and remembering the significant lessons from her past life, she brought back the message from the masters. Now, I asked George, when he stayed in a deeper state, is there anything more? Are there any other messages for you? Any other information or wisdom for you to take back? I took down all he said as though I were taking dictation. The earth life is a gift. It is a school to learn how love manifests in a physical dimension where bodies and emotions exist. But the school has many playgrounds, and those need to be used. The physical life is meant to be enjoyed. This is one reason you have been given the senses. Be good people, have fun, enjoy yourselves. Enjoy the simple yet abundant pleasures of life while not harming other people or other things like nature. When he left, I wrote, when George awoke, he knew these messages were very important to him because he didn't have any fun in this present life. And these are simple things about why we were here. There are playgrounds here too. It's not all work and serious. Be good people, meant to be compassionate and caring at all levels. When he came to his next session, George told me about a miraculous dream. Whatever doubts he had about regression therapy had disappeared. He was excited, vibrant. The messages he had learned took the form of a person, a spiritual being, bathed in a blue light he had seen during his first regression. The person in a blue light told him he needed to love himself more and that earth people needed to take care of one another, not harm others. He received instructions, he told me, though he wasn't able to go into much detail. They were instructions meant for him. He knew but concerned humanity at all levels. He needed to communicate better, to explain his thoughts and actions rather than just lashing out. Be more gentle, the Spirit said. Don't do harm to others. George told me that there was a hierarchy of spirits and that the one who visited him in his dream wasn't necessarily at the highest level. There are other places and other dimensions that are even higher and do not belong to the earth. Still, we have to learn the lessons of the masters because the important thing was to progress, he said. While this was not a cogent or encompassing as the messages that Catherine had delivered, I was moved by it. Once again, it was a case of a patient leading doctor.